Of all the technology that crossed into the Mirror Universe on the USS Defiant, evidently locking holsters for your phasers is not one of them here on V'ger Please. A vile visit to Evil Bejor. My name is Joseph.
And locking holsters is exactly what Kieran Nish wanted to get into this episode. I'm your co-host, Peter.
So, Peter, as I mentioned to you last week, this marks an annual tradition on the part of Deep Space Nine that they're going to do wacky hijinks in the Mirror Universe, a untapped resource as far as Trek is concerned up to this point, since the one time they did it in TOS. Obviously, they couldn't help themselves but to go back to it way too much by the time they got to Discovery. But I would like for you to tell us what episode we watched this week.
Well, this week, season 2, episode 23. We're getting down to the end of the wire, man.
Oh, we are.
Crossover first aired the 15th of May, 1994. Teleplayed by Peter Allen Fields and Michael Piller. Story by Peter Allen Fields. Directed by David Livingston. Surprised they didn't get out the guy from Tarek Noor with all of his dark lighting. This version of Tarek Noor, by the way, despite featuring heavy Cardassian participation in the Union, very well lit. No electric fences.
I mean, those Klingons aren't having it. You know, they need it nice and temperate. So this, I mean, as all of our viewers will know, because I'm going to use our fantastic Mirror Universe song to open this.
How about that banger, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. This marks a return to the Mirror Universe for the first time since Mirror and TOS. And in particular, I really like how they end up using it and developing it here in Deep Space Nine. And they do it as a sort of like almost I don't want to call it comedy bit, but a sort of like break from the action each season of like, we're going through the meta plot and then suddenly the Mirror Universe is going to show up and there's a whole meta plot going on over there that we don't see most of the time. And we're going to join this already in progress. It's kind of the feel of it. And I thought in particular, upon reading the Memory Alpha, that the comments from Piller and Robert Hewitt-Wolf, they had a real fucking plan with how they decided to reintroduce this concept that I liked. And in particular with Piller to say, yeah, isn't what Kirk did like a total gross violation of the Prime Directive? Shouldn't that have had like terrible consequences? And they kind of went from there. And there's a comment from Robert Hewitt-Wolf about how, okay, so we left the Mirror episode really hopeful of like this new future without this empire being so brutal. But what if it's like the Chinese empire and it gets really nice and then suddenly the Mongols invade? What if this is a harsh universe and you have to be harsh to survive in it, and when you stop being harsh you get taken the fuck over? Actually, like a really great idea that they decide to invest themselves in for the rest of the run of the Mirror Universe subplot in Deep Space Nine. Very cool.
I'm excited to see it. Mirror Universe is a cool place. I'm the most accessible thing to me right now is the 2-parter Enterprise episode, which was phenomenal. And then, of course, the miles of mud that fucking Discovery dragged us through with it. Lot to unpack there. Like, first of all, the fact there was never a Mirror Universe episode in TNG, and it's very clear that everyone wanted there to be, right? And we got yesterday's Enterprise.
And you don't get it. We came, yeah.
I would say that brought us even further than what Mirror Universe would have been capable of. If you're not going to get Mirror Universe, boy, yesterday's Enterprise is a hell of a consolation prize. But also, you think about all the TNG trash that they pumped out, and it's like, really, you guys couldn't fit a Mirror Universe episode in over anything in season 1 and lots of stuff in season 7 and which, interestingly, Worf was supposed to be in this episode and Michael Dorn was unavailable. because they were doing all good things. So goodbye TNG, I guess. But yeah, like, especially viewing the Mirror Universe through the eyes of Enterprise, which would come much later, but precede all of this, like, what does this universe really look like? Was the Terran Empire brutal for the sake of brutality, or because it was forced to be that as a product of its environment? They would later go on to refine the Mirror Universe as a product of Zephyrin Cochrane's decision to just blast the Vulcans.
Yeah, and so I started blasting. Yeah, the origin story.
His GTA the ship. But clearly there were other elements at play in that galaxy that exacerbated the situation and made things have to grow harder. Seeing how brutal the Empire was in Enterprise and whatever the hell Discovery did, like, thinking of it post Kirk actually softening up to the detriment of itself. And I'll tell you, like, they talk about the Romans heavily and the barbarians, and I was doing some character research for a writing project. And I was reading up on just absolute fucking brutality that these Dark Ages and earlier shit did to each other. Like,
oh yeah, the ancient world was not a pretty place to be.
Some sick, like, just stuff that still haunts me thinking about, like, what was done to civilian populations. There was no mercy anywhere to be found on either side. And that's how escalation works on this stuff, man. Like,
yeah, if you are in a circumstance where human life is not sacred or otherwise sought to be preserved, our base instincts are not aligned in such a way that you are going to see a lot of mercy. And Robert Hewlett Wolf's exact line here in the Memory Alpha I thought was just excellent. Empires aren't usually brutal unless there's a reason. There's usually an external or internal pressures that cause them to be that way. So I just thought that if the parallel Earth was that brutal, there had to be a reason. And the reason was that the barbarians were at the gate. In this case, the Klingons and Cardassians. And the idea of the Mirror Universe just being a place of brutality, a place where wherever the better angels of our nature that allow the Prime Universe to be this place where people will do the right thing because it's within themselves to do so. That just doesn't exist here. These people don't work that way. It may be the only consistency that we actually see throughout the use of the Mirror Universe and Discovery, by the way, when Grougeot is just like a terrible person no matter what. But the idea that the Terran Empire was a product of its environment and not a uniquely brutal thing to exist, and Kirk's interference ultimately brought its ruination by bringing in basically like almost a disease, like a foreign idea of empathy that just isn't compatible here. It's just not the way they work. And there's a fantastic illustration of this within this episode with Quark.
yes.
Do you remember this? Do you watch any South Park at all? Have you ever been a South Park guy?
A handful of episodes here and there.
I used to be a big South Park guy, and very occasionally I will go back to it. Some of the stuff they did on Paramount Plus was particularly funny because they're all movies.
Yes, yeah.
But there's an episode where there was the Mirror Universe of South Park, where it was they've been playing to the trope where all of the boys have like evil mustaches.
Goatees,
but then like Evil Cartman's actually a really chill, nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
Really helpful, really kind. And it's like Quark is actually basically Evil Cartman, right? Which is to say he's actually very empathetic. He's actively attempting to help people escape. He's very soft. And he is the first one killed. He is the first one disposed of unceremoniously, dispatched. He's not compatible with this universe.
So, to that end, what is the Mirror Universe? Is it simply everybody is a cartoonish villain of themselves? Or is it strong qualities are still present in each of the characters that they are in the main universe, but they're perverted and they were allowed to grow along different lines? Right?
I feel, yeah, it's what if many of the same personality traits existed in these people, But whereas they were in an environment that allowed them to build as a conscience and empathy and ideals, it is replaced instead with the most harsh of realpolitik. You have an O'Brien that is still a talented mechanic, but now is a slave. You have an Odo who is still obsessed with order, but now
Unchecked.
unchecked brutality rather than justice. You have a Kira Nerys that is a talented leader of others and someone willing to do whatever is necessary to achieve the best possible result, but instead of restraining her impulses towards violence and depravity, she uses them and engages them openly. And so on and so. Garak, like instead of the sort of refined restraint of a gentleman's spy, he's just like an out and out brutal autocrat who's still capable of manipulation, but has lost all of his subtlety.
Finesse. Yeah.
Because it's his restraint that leads to his finesse.
Well, Quark specifically, though, I don't feel that he's really that much of a different character. The origin of Quark is the same, and he has a unique position. Side note, where the fuck was Gul Dukat in all of this? How dare you deprive me of that? I'm not going to turn my nose up at Garak, despite the fact Garak just had a turbo banger last episode, but like, we didn't have any room for Mark. Even a throwaway line that, Kira disposed of Dukat to take over the station or something sexy. Hopefully, does he pop up in later Mirror Universe episodes?
I don't remember. I don't think he's actually in the Mirror Universe at all.
I guess maybe. How do you make that miss? Jesus.
I feel like Gul Dukat isn't in the Mirror Universe episodes because it would be the circle. He'd be Evil Cartman. He would be like he would be the dashing resistance hero. He would be the good guy. He would be the best guy.
He's always the good
the
guy,
only heroic person. Yeah.
He's always the good. There you go.
Oh yeah. Just a follow up on last week or a couple of weeks ago. People were watching our episodes about the Maquis, and someone brought up that like Mark Almo said that he always played Dukat like Dukat was the main character of the show. I was like, there it is. That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, so the next time we do a Mirror episode here, we're going to have to put a skit in front of it, and it'll be our characters talking after the mission like, man, did you get a chance to interact with Dukat at all? Like, don't tell anybody. I'm kind of fanboying. So Odo and Quark are the only two characters really that you're able to get perspective both ways, because both of them survived in a fascist occupancy of Deep Space Nine, right?
Correct.
Odo's origin was a little different because he came in and was and maybe that's the same way it kind of played out here. But Quark was a indentured servant to a fascist organization, and his profits were harmed, but he still found a way to survive playing dirty. And in both of these, like, to different degrees, obviously, but like, even when it was the Cardassians occupying Bajor, like, he was still hooking the Bajorans up with contraband. He was charging them. It wasn't a free service, but like, there is a sympathy that Quark has that is never explicitly stated in the mainline stuff, but is very clearly there. And all the stuff we talked about before, that Quark is a bad Ferengi because he's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all still there. And I think
it is. I agree with you. I'm saying it's turned up. Like, his Mirror Universe version is he's an even worse Ferengi, because the implication is he's not getting paid anything to try and help these people escape.
And he's a hero too. Like, when he gets caught, like, he's like, okay, I'm getting the gun and I'm going down blasting people. Like, I am not a coward.
Correct.
I am a good guy through and through. Even when Kira Nerys is sentencing him to an execution, like,
he doesn't dime anybody out. He doesn't try to sell anybody out. Like, he's a better person than normal Quark, because first, he's motivated just, I want to help people escape, right? Like that, in his little bit of time he has to talk to our Kira, that's what he's talking about.
Keep in mind, too,
he gets excoriated by Mirror Kira for having such a conscience.
When does the Terran occupation of Bajor lift? Because ostensibly, the Terran Empire built Terraconor, right? Like, that's not Cardassian architecture that's human architecture.
Well, again, they didn't get into this, so they left that piece of the timeline a little fuzzy. But one presumes the occupation of Bajor would have ended not long after Spock disarmed the Empire, so it would have been almost 100 years prior. So
It would
the
have.
Cardassians, having built the station, could have just been part of Bajor integrating into the Alliance, and that's how they've managed to. They've built out their influence from there.
I think for everybody from the main, taking everything at face value here, right? And that's something that I'm willing to do with Deep Space Nine, because there is a level of consideration and thought that are going into this episodes that just did not exist in Voyager, and a lot of times in Enterprise too, I think. For all of the main cast to be out there, right? For Sisko and O'Brien to be that far away from Earth, the Terran Empire would have had to have some sort of a reasonable footprint still out that far, that even if things had collapsed around Bajor, like, you're not going to get that close to an opposing hostile empire. And it's ridiculous to think that raiding parties just happened to bring this to it. Like, there had to be strong Terran infrastructure still out there that they could have feasibly been serving or living on colonies out that way to get picked up and enslaved. So I'm not saying it happened, 5 years ago, but I don't think it was a century ago.
Hard to know because they don't define it. You're right. I think there's reason to believe that it probably took a while for the Terran Empire to fall, but at the same time, everyone treats like the Terran Empire as such a distant memory that I feel like it happened a long time ago. Like O'Brien in particular is like can't even conceive of the idea of a human doctor. Like, it had to have been 100 years ago if it's that distant a memory. Like
O'Brien's a really interesting character in all this too, because he is not like Quark. He's one of the few people in all of this that is not a piece of shit. Sisko, definitely a piece of shit. All the other alien characters, pieces of shit. But like O'Brien has none of the markers of vile human bullshit that you really see in the Enterprise episodes, where just there's this core rottenness to him. Like this is just a good guy who has had to suffer a little bit too much. And boy, I'm going to tell you right now, Joe, so sad that yet another opportunity to bring a second Miles O'Brien onto the station.
It's in the same season, no less.
You could be running 3 miles deep right now.
You could have OG Miles. You could have perfect replicant Miles, and perhaps somewhat evil, dirty Mirror Universe Miles.
Let's
absolutely exterminating every Cardassian in the sector. Let's face it. Like, these are the men you need for the job.
Exterminating every broken toilet in the station is what I'm saying. And this is the way that we will refer to these three. There's I don't want to eat your dinner, Miles. There's I'm happy to be sitting at the table with you, Miles. You're my dying thought is dinner with you, Miles. And then there's I would love to have dinner with you, Miles. we rate them on a wife friendliness scale.
Yeah, we went up with perhaps the most difficult to watch scene in the history of Star Trek in terms of cringe. Oh, it's so good, right? Like,
they're a great pairing, and this picks right up from God. What was the one where he was going on about how great he is, and she was just fucking not having it with him? Because I rewatched that intro like 4 times.
Yeah, I rewatched this a couple times too.
No. The last time they were in a runabout together.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
She tries to compliment him, and he's just a complete prick, and it was perfect.
They were coming back from some medical conference, and he's talking about, I'm a healer.
He solved a dilemma, and they're like, how did you know that he was that? And it's like, because the tricorder showed him his dad's like, well, you're not as smart. You're not a super scientist.
That's right. I know what you're talking about. It was in a runabout too.
Yeah. These two pair great, and some of that animosity is reflected here. I think Bashir oversells the difficulty of their relationship, claiming that she just flat out hated him. But it's a fun punch up. They're returning to the Alpha Quadrant. No, they're still Alpha, right? They're coming back in from the Gamma Quadrant to Deep Space Nine after visiting New Bajor, which Let's talk about the politics of that real quick.
Yeah. So this episode introduces the idea that Bajor has taken the opportunity of a nearby trans-galactic space butthole to colonize the other side of the galaxy and essentially lay further claim to Bajor's essential ownership of the wormhole to begin with, which is a natural extension of what we've been talking about, right? Like the whole reason they moved the station here is because it exists within what you would call the Bajoran territorial waters, right? The territorial space, and so they had to claim some kind of ownership of it on behalf of
Mm-hmm.
Bajor. And so naturally, what's the next thing to do? Put something on the other end too. Control both ends of the freeway, right? So something of a statement for Bajor, right? Is like we are expanding beyond merely just trying to put our own planet back together. We're going to even colonize planets on the other side of the galaxy and really flesh out our place here as Space Breezewood.
All of the perfectly good M-class planets surrounding Bajor to the point where you have such a surplus, you're fracking the moons for energy, right?
Right.
All of the starvation and terrible poverty and blight and famine on Bajor, the desperate need for just food and blankets.
Yep. This is a society can't produce enough blankets. Yep.
You could just colonize one of these other planets and start farming there, but you're going to send resources through the mouth of madness with their ass completely hanging out exposed on the other side of this wormhole. How have you conned these Bajorans into looking up at the sky and going, I want to fly through that thing? Like, there has to be rampant stories about how hellish problems are oviposited out of this thing once every 2 weeks, right?
It's also, let us not forget, because they haven't really spent a lot of time on it this season. So, it's worth knowing that they have forgotten, but this is a religious experience for the Bajorans, right? Like Kaiopaka really wanted to go through the wormhole for a reason. It's the celestial temple. It is literally where their gods live. So the idea that some Bajorans would actually be down for traveling through there and colonizing a planet on the other side of their god's residence, I could see that actually working. I could see that making sense.
And that was my point here is like, you had to get some real true believers, some pilgrims over there. You're also going to have to establish very strict laws on Bajor that there can be no tours of the wormhole. You can go through the Celestial Temple only if you're going to New Bajor, ready to brave whatever gamma hell awaits you on that other side. And please pay
we have
no
dropped
attention.
off galaxies over there. the people start showing up around here looking for planets to colonize, including yours. It's just the good luck over there.
Yeah,
but
the audacity that you have colonists coming over to want to live on your planet and you say no, and then you send your colonists over there to live on a planet. Exciting stuff. Like, no, we're not going to just have ships chilling out over there. Forget about a space station or even a flotilla. We're just full colonization. What's the worst that can happen? We can't even keep things chill over here on Bajor. Guys, go enjoy the first city of New Bajor, Johnstown. Prophets bless you. Peace out.
The cringe comes in with the interactions between Kira and Bashir because once again, not only is Julian talking way too much about himself and about how great he is and annoying the shit out of Kira, he's also trying to hit on her. And it is, of course, metatextually hilarious because Sidigal Faisal and Nana Vister do in fact hook up, are in fact a couple IRL, and later on, he's going to knock her up. And they're going to have to write the plot around the fact that the actor of Julian Bashir knocked up the actress of Kira Nerys.
Mm-hmm.
So these two having this kind of weird antagonistic relationship with each other on screen being juxtaposed by the fact that the actors are literally at this time banging. I like it, right? It's probably why they're able to have believable negative chemistry with each other.
Now, she can act like she doesn't like it, but And I know that at the back of this runabout, there's a whole conference room.
There is.
She could have very easily gotten up out of that seat, walked to the back to the Holiday Inn Express portable, and she could have meditated in peace. And yet she willfully remained within annoyance distance of Julian, so she could be hit on to try to usurp her best friend's romance.
So after a delightful exchange between the two of them about Julian's sense of superiority and wanting to share rhythmic breathing techniques, we have our space dilemma. There's some sort of problem with the plasma injector on the runabout as they attempt to go through the wormhole. And
In warp,
this,
like that's the like she's like drop us out of warp, and it's like these these recorded camera footage of people falling asleep and just speeding through car washes and slamming into. Wow, that's how you get into the mirror universe on Earth. You just gotta
you gotta do. Was it 88.5 miles an hour? Whatever the Back to the Future
through
speed
a car
is?
wash.
Yes. Going too fast through the Celestial Temple with your warp bubble still up and your plasma injector leaking apparently is the secret to getting into the mirror universe in your runabout, because they roll through, they come out the other side, there's a flash of light, they feel a little weird, and suddenly there's a giant Klingon cruiser that is greeting them instead of Deep Space Nine. And in a very cool move, the two Klingons beam over, and for whatever reason, Livingston decides to shoot low in this scene. So they're like, he's like up the actors' noses to try and like keep you disoriented, because they are. And these two Klingon come aboard and they see Kira and they're like, "We're so sorry. Our bad. We'll go. We're just so sorry. Please don't murder us." And they just are immediately cowed and beam back to their ship. And it's just a great way to start it. Like, wherever we are, we know Kira's fucking scary as shit. These two saw her. She was angry. That was enough. I'm so sorry. I'm pleased. Please, no murder, please. And for Klingons to act that way, you know it's gotta be fucking scary.
I would say the Klingons overall in this episode are much more muted and chill than what we see out of the main. And I'm curious if we'll I mean, I know the wiki talks about Worf showing up in some later ones, like if we'll see a more vicious side of Klingon, or if things unfolded differently and, you know, Klingons got called out on a bluff and had to kind of scale some stuff back. They impound the vessel, they fly him back. We get some nice side conversations about, like, you know, I know it's her. Who could this imposter be? Blah, blah, blah. Skip to the point where we see that Garak gets another consecutive episode.
Yep. He's apparently the executive officer of Terraknor here. Like I said, never sad to see him, even if it's the mirror version. And he's much more authoritarian. He's much more out and out, just wearing his "I'm going to interrogate you and torture you until you scream" on his sleeve. And sure enough, of course, this is all in service to the eventual reveal that for the first time, instead of just having our mirror universe people kind of supplant existing folks, we're going to actually meet them. They're going to meet themselves. And Kira Nerys meets the sexy lesbian version of Kira Nerys that you called immediately, like a year ago. You were not fooled for 1 second at how this was going to go. And she slinks out with her hips swaying and her skin tight leather outfit. And I know you, Peter.
Warrior princess crown.
Yeah, this is basically made for you.
Yeah. They take it a little further than I was expecting with some behavior here, but what shines very bright through this entire episode is I can't tell you another Evil Twin episode that I've seen anywhere that has the amount of one-on-one extended dialogue between the same actor that this does, and pulls it off as well. And I don't know if it's camera technology, I don't know if it's direction, I don't know if it's just Nana Vister fucking kicking the shit out of this, but all of the Kira scenes are gold.
It's Nana Vister kicking the shit out of this. So,
but I mean, technically speaking, like it all looks like the whole thing comes together A+.
Well, compositing the shot is not a difficult thing to do. They could do that in the 60s. It's hard for you to act against yourself because you have to decide what your reaction is going to be before you actually play the other half of the scene. And it takes talent as an actor, I would presume, to line that up quite as perfectly as they do when they make a point of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's stunning how Nana Vista is able to portray the Mirror Universe version of herself with body language. It just an intense change in body language. Like, as much as this leather outfit looks fucking amazing on her, it's essentially covering her the same way her normal duty uniform does. And in fact, it's no more or less flattering of her body than her normal uniform, as we have noted, right? She looks great all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, great. Okay. But she's crossing her legs in front of her and like kind of swaying her hips and is just giving that sort of dominatrixy, sexy vibe, and all of her body language and how she interacts with people is a way to sort of throw them off. And that's really what allows her to act against the usual version of herself in this way that we're admiring, right? Like, you have normal Kira, who's much more reserved and dialed in, if passionate, right? Like, she's not a expressive person physically, she's an expressive person facially, and this is a much more expressive version in a different way. And so when they pair up against each other, she's able to play one half sort of like, all right, I'm taking this in, I'm restraining myself on purpose. I've got a mission here. I've got to figure out how to navigate this. And the other version of her is literally wanting to fuck herself. and so she secures both ends of this and puts it on screen. Only she can do that.
I'm curious who was doing her line reads for the other version of herself that was not in the scene.
Yeah, I was wondered too. Like, who was doing that so that she could, somebody was there.
I mean, I assume it was just Armin Shimmerman, right? Like, Kira Nerys in both of these worlds, I like that they both harbor this deep regret for the actions that they have had to take and continue to take. That they have had to take. And whereas main Kira has really tried to be a better person, evil Kira has found a peace in the necessity of continuing it. And while she doesn't enjoy it and she tries to refrain from having to do it, when she does do it, she can go from ordering Quark's death to being happy about a dress selection for a party that night, like within 2 seconds. Right. Like she's
utilitarian. So she says, and I think somewhat truthfully, like, I don't really particularly like committing wanton violence. That's just not something I enjoy. It's because she would rather enjoy the pleasures of life, right? Like, she's a hedonist, clearly. And she doesn't abhor violence. She just sees it as counterproductive, a waste of resources. Like, her objection to not Ducat.
Garak.
Her objection to Garak killing the guy who tried to escape, that we find out about at the beginning, is that you just keep killing all of our workers. Like, we have to keep them, right? Like, you've had a little too much fun killing workers lately. You've got to stop, or I'm going to kill you. It's because he's wasting company resources,
I think it goes deeper because, like, her connection with this Theta class of worker, which seems to be like the most privileged and loyal workers, like, she's not spitting down on these people. I think she's genuinely showing a recognition of accomplishments of these humans that have been able to work up in the constructed system that they have. When she's sentencing Quark to execution, like, there's a recognition of that on some level. They have this shared value that they don't want to see people needlessly hurt. And I think that's the fun part with evil characters, is that not everything has to be a lie or deception. That when you are hard facing evil, you can have these sympathetic expressions because they're still ultimately worthless. You're not really acting on them in a meaningful capacity. but they can be there and they can be genuine, and they just come off as even more shitty because you have the means to do something about it, and ultimately you're not.
She's obviously a key character throughout the entirety of the Deep Space Nine Mirror Universe arc. So she shows up multiple times from this point forward, and she has an arc of her own as it relates to, you know, fleshing out what your perspective is, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't want to spoil anything to talk too
Sure.
much about it. There's things that happen here. I certainly don't think she's a good person.
No.
But like you said, there's complexity here. She is not just some rank total sociopath. She is, maybe there's a little bit of, I don't really want to be doing this. I'd rather be fucking everything in sight type of thing. Like I'd rather, make out with myself. Not a positive alternative, but not, I'm here just to murder folks. Yeah.
Real quick, when they came out of the wormhole, was it just me or did the wormhole open upside down?
If it did, I didn't notice, but maybe it did. That would be appropriate.
I like too that they don't know about the wormhole and that it becomes very evident very quickly, like, we should not let this evil spread over there, which is of course, sad because there's a lot of fun for that empire waiting on the other side, clearly. But also too, I was thinking about the development of what happened over here. The Borg never had an opportunity because humanity was never able to put its best foot forward for Q to notice and begin testing them.
Correct.
So the Borg are arguably out there in the Delta Quadrant. They just haven't had a reason to push this far in yet.
Well, they're probably dead because they fucking pissed off a species 8472, and then Janeway wasn't there to bail them out.
Well, that wouldn't have
Nature
happened
took
yet.
its course.
They've got 3 more years, I believe, before the fluidic space excursion.
Yeah, sort of space Mewtwo's go ahead and just kill them all.
And if we're going to say, hey, everybody's shitty over in this universe, then maybe things develop differently over there. But I think everything, based on the conversations that Kira has with herself initially in the principal's office, humanity had enslaved Bajor and really primed that part of the galaxy into being cruel and brutal. And maybe they would have developed along different lines if the Terran Empire had never touched them in the no place first.
So Bashir is immediately sent to the ore processing facility, and is gonna have his own studied plot of trying to make friends with Bashir, or making friends with O'Brien. And Kira brings herself to the redesigned ops, which has a big old symbol for the Alliance in the middle, to go into her office, and she explains the backstory, which is, yeah, I actually know where you're from. Everyone does, because your universe is the reason why this universe is the way it is, and that is some guy named Kirk, who Kara doesn't know anything about, which makes sense. Why should she be up on Federation history? She, has been busy being a terrorist most of her life.
True.
Came over 100 years ago and convinced a fellow named Spock to perhaps reform the Empire from its previously despotic ways, disarm, peace, all of these things. And he was successful in that, and Spock was successful in becoming commander-in-chief of the Empire. And the problem is once he defanged the Empire, all of its enemies took advantage of the circumstance and destroyed it. And so now the galaxy, this part of it at least, is run by a Klingon Cardassian alliance, of which Bajor is a member. And her take is, there's actually a standing order to kill anybody from your universe, since clearly you fucked around here once already, and God only knows what else you're going to do. But you came over, and if I'm anything, it's a narcissist. And I am very entranced by the idea of being with myself. So you're going to stick around here. And our Kira, is smart enough to know herself, or know what perhaps this version of herself would be like. And they have a great exchange where she portrays herself as interested in learning from Mirror Kira how to be a good ruler to help her version of Bajor, which is not as strong as hers, and kind of play into what she knows is going to be the things that would piss her off, to secure some level of trust with her so that she can operate within the station and ultimately try and find some kind of solution. It's very, very good scene. With one actor.
Right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Even if the plot in this thing was a dump, which it's not, just watching her play against herself and really explore the side that is not talking. I think the reactions that the other side offers through it are just, they're synced up so well. Like,
yeah,
she's putting maximum effort into this thing. There is no phoning it in, and it is great. Which,
I wonder how many times I had to shoot this just to like get it exactly right, because you can tell a little every once in a while that it was like shot, and then you had the reverse. You had the other piece of the shot where the actor changes roles.
Who's also been able to do this? Data, Riker,
Janeway.
Yeah, speaking of talking too close.
unintentional vibes. Yeah. This is intentional vibes.
I would say the one that gets to do it the most, though, would have been Data with lore. And those are stifled and cartoonish just because of the nature of, Data and evil lore. So I think she's given scenes here to really touch complex issues and feelings that none of the other clone actors were able to really dig into, and it's great. And yeah, just Kira thrown into this absolutely zany situation, and maybe this is stuff that Starfleet might train for, but like you're saying, like, Kira Nerys is not a Starfleet officer. She did not go through an academy, and she does not usually do well with zany space bullshit, as evidenced in Come Along Home. I think she really
she abhors zany space bullshit, and she finds it annoying.
Well, she hits the ground running in this one, and instantly is just like, this is ridiculous. I kind of understand what's going on, and I am just going to manipulate this thing because I cannot fight my way out of it. I forget, so Kira kind of real Kira picks up on Mirror Universe? I forget, did she say that she's aware of what it is or no?
Mirror Kira knows. Mirror Kira explains the whole thing.
Right.
Real Kira does not. Real Kira has to have the whole thing. In fact, Real Kira has to go to Bashir afterwards and be like, "Have you ever heard of Captain Kirk?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, we're in the Mirror Universe, aren't we?" He's like, he helps her, like, secures the idea that that's where they are.
And again, Nerys is not a educated person. Her school was the school of slitting civilian throats. But does the average Federation citizen know about the existence of the Mirror Universe?
Probably not.
Problems? Jeez, man.
I mean, Starfleet officers do. They probably study it a lot.
And I don't think under the sworn oath of secrecy that thou shall not talk about this? Because I'll tell you, man.
I don't think it's that. I think it's like, there's a lot, for example, in military history, right? Like, that people who are in the military that go to war college read, and it's not that it's secret; it's just niche. So what's more niche than the idea of, like, hey guys, when you're out there doing space hazard stuff, you might accidentally go to a universe that's filled with evil versions of you. Like,
I don't know.
I will never experience that as a grape farmer on Earth. I don't really fucking care.
Let me tell you what that sentence really says is, or the reasonable reply to that is, there's a universe like ours. You mean my dead wife might still be alive? What Peter, do I need?
Peter, that's the next Mirror Universe episode, sir.
Because boy, is there a whole laundry list of, like, psychotic episodes and adventures for people to go on. It's like, I'm gonna do a space heist, and I'm going to steal a loved one back, and we're gonna do Guardians of the Galaxy 3 here. I'm getting my wife back.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. That's where we're headed with this.
Good, please.
It's like,
Can we skip that episode? Can we just do all the Mirror Universe stuff in a row right now while we're riding high on this? Odo's a real motherfucker.
He is. He is. Evil Odo is just a dick. He is the most jackbooted jackbooter that we have ever seen in the history of our show, right? Like we constantly talked about how the Delta Quadrant was filled with all of these jackbooted thugs. Every time Voyager showed up, he's like, all right, how high is the collar? You know, how far up is the
Mm-hmm.
boot? Like how fascist are these guys gonna be? And it's like Odo is like their king. like his collar is it's up to the ears, bro. Like
High collar.
there's no chill with him.
Notably, he's packing heat, which
Yep.
is a big Odo no-no. And this Odo never had the example of, but he would have though, because again, these guys both grew up with Cardassians present, although he would have grown up in the privileged class because Bajor wasn't the oppressed population. They were
Correct.
the oppressors, and humans were imported over to here to be forced labor. So he didn't grow up with the humans / Bajorans. He grew up with the bad guys and then opted to come in here and work. So he takes some real joy in doing all the nasty, mean shit that he would have condemned the Cardassians for. And I really liked him acclimating Bashir to life in the pit.
Just smacking him over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Rules of obedience.
Odo obedience, yes.
So, speed run some stuff because we've already been at this for 45 minutes.
I know, but it's so good.
It is. It is good. And I don't want to rush anything, but there's some pieces of this we've already talked about.
A lot of girls aliens in this. Girl Klingons, girl Cardassians.
Yeah, notably in the background for both. They're like the guards, just
handmaidens almost. Like, because you see the girls following Kira around on Mira's. That's what it is. The Kira is just Mira. All right.
Gotcha.
On her request, because, you know, again, one side knows the other. And I think at a certain level, Mira's knows, like, all right, she's not super cool with this. Like, we got to keep an eye on her.
Although evidently later on it was Garak that arranged the guards, not her. That's an interesting point that was made later on.
Oh, it's Garak's Angels. All right.
Yeah, it's Garak's Angels. So
give me that spinoff.
So Bashir has to grunt it out doing ore processing while he tries to get to know the first, potentially friendly face that they see, which is a enslaved O'Brien, who is called Smiley in this universe by Cisco, who we'll meet in a little bit. He is a bit timid, but he's clearly a tech genius, and he's still kind of doing what he would normally do on Deep Space Nine, albeit in an indentured fashion. And in the reverse of the circumstance where, Bashir is attempting to befriend a normal O'Brien that's, very confident, very sure of himself. And this one is certainly been beaten down by a lifetime of servitude. Meanwhile, Kira goes and meets Quark. We've kind of talked that one over. Quark is softer. Quark is very interested in helping people escape. Kira's intention is obviously like, maybe this Quark will also cut a dirty deal with me, which is true, except unfortunately, in the middle of cutting this dirty deal, Garak shows up with thugs and reveals that Quark has been helping people escape on freighters. And as you noted, he doesn't want to go down without a fight. It grabs a phaser rifle and attempts to gat these dudes, but unfortunately is only able to make one errant shot before he is dragged away.
Life's hard on Tarek Noor, man. The good guys get chewed up and spit out. And it's actually the Phaeton from right when they got off the runabout that fingers Quark as the source of how he was able to escape. And Quark's able to intonate, I'll help you get this transporter so you guys can make whatever zany creation you have to beam out of here. But can you get other people out? Like, his first thought is like so selfless of like, great, you've got a way to get humans out. I will help you. You need to keep this underground railroad open so I can send more people out. Which I'm guessing Deep Space Nine is within, or I'm sorry, Tarek Noor is within transporter distance to the Bajoran moon or Bajoran planet, right?
It's not in Well, so where it is, yeah, where Terok Nor is in transport distance to Bajor. Deep Space Nine isn't,
Well,
famously.
I mean, that's going to have to be a transport to Bajor, because you can't just transport to Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine's too far away, right? It's like you can make time travel, but it has to be what, time and distance travel. Otherwise, if you appear here 2 months ago, Earth is not going to be in this position. You are going to appear in the middle of space, and
Yeah, and if
you
you
got,
presume, as I think that they do, that the mirror universe is, it's a mirror, so it's moving at basically the same space, and
yeah,
like time and space is relative to both.
yeah,
You're right. Like if they were going to solve this problem with a transporter, it would be a transport to Bajor, and then they'd
yeah.
have to call Deep Space Nine up and be like, "Hey, can you come get us, Ron Azeroth? We had a wacky adventure. Listen, please come soon. There's another smoke monster thing happening here. I don't know what's going on. I'm not in the mood. I'm in this weird blue dress. Julian's like very dirty. Like, just
Mhm.
come get us."
Why?
You know.
Oh, it's so bad. It's industrial blight. Everything's been strip mined. It's so bad. Why are you calling me in phone mode instead of video? Put on the screen. You're in a park. It's beautiful. What are you complaining about? Look at that beautiful Southern California weather. You guys are such liars.
So after Quark gets dragged away is when we finally meet Mirror Benjamin Sisko, who is essentially a pirate. He is a hammy, very, very
Season one. He's
season
very season one.
season
Cisco.
one. If he was a pirate, yeah, he's very over the top. Um, I find him to be the kind of the weirdest part of the episode. It's like
Yes.
for a character that otherwise has a ton of like interesting texture to him in the real version of the universe, um, he kind of sucks in this version. He's one note, and I think they kind of know that because they don't really use him after this. But
Well, he's the one that made me start thinking about all this. Like, these aren't simply cardboard cutout evil versions of themselves. There are these strong traits that are present in both versions, and they've just been able to develop along different ways. Like all this crazy unhinged shit he's doing is stuff that you saw him doing in season one, right? But season one, Cisco had been grounded at certain levels by having this tragic
yeah,
dead wife story, having a son that he had to be responsible for, having this frankly unhealthy obsession with duty and the uniform. And here's this guy who has none of these rails, right?
yeah,
And he's just left to be however mercenary and unhinged as the moment allows. And, we know that Cisco is a guy who, even with the dead wife story and a son and the duty of the Starfleet uniform, is still willing to go ape shit and beat a Klingon's ass.
yes. Death Row Cisco is the result after several layers of restraint, right? And this is a man with zero restraints. In fact, he's a pirate. He's out there to commit crimes on behalf of his patron, essentially. And it shows.
So,
There's a bit of the Cisco charm. His crew obviously is very ride or die. He's essentially capable in
he's
his role. In some
protective of them.
Yes, he is very much so. We see that in an interaction later on. So the character traits of Cisco are present, but A, he's not in the episode for very much screen time, and B, it's because Avery Brooks just plays it with this hammy, over the top sort of veneer. It kind of takes away from the potential
Jarring.
depth he could have had there.
I agree. It was not a fantastic portrayal, but I can see what they were going for. And even at the end, listening to him or watching him listen to Miles O'Brien talking about the potential of the world and the life that could have been, and why he was willing to throw everything away for the chance to go live over there, and like this uplifting speech, and really kind of like this Federation ideal and this Starfleet mindset coming out of this guy, like it radicalizes Cisco, right? And like you see that even in this fucked up, broken version of himself, like there's a part of this guy that wants to be the paragon and is willing to fight hard for this ideal.
Maybe not the paragon, but he wants something to fight for. You know, like
Yeah.
he wants a cause. He wants a thing. The same way that our Cisco has defined himself within the parameters of the uniform.
Oh man,
Yeah, this guy kind of wants a uniform to restrain him. Like
did
there's
they bring
something.
him back, or does he not come into future episodes?
He's a major part of the next episode, but it's in a complicated way.
Because let me tell you what, if I was going to rewrite any of this stuff, the deal is you help me get out of here. I'm going to give you this really powerful tool, which is knowledge about the wormhole. You guys can go start your fucking resistance cell out in the Gamma Quadrant unmolested for now. Or, hey, I'm going to buy off your pirate services. If we're not going to go with like if he doesn't get radicalized by Smiles' speech, just Kira buys him off. I can tell you where there's untold treasures and blah, blah, blah. Here's the wormhole. Help us get free. Great. They fly through the wormhole and they go back to Deep Space Nine. He flies through the wormhole to go escape to the Gamma Quadrant. And guess what happens over there? Prophets are like, gotcha, dumbass. We've been waiting for you, Ben.
Ah, you are the emissary here too.
Let us
Whoopsie doodles.
You're going to experience time as a flat circle, and we are going to fix you. And now you are going to be the avatar of our justice to try to fix this deeply flawed world over here. And you take him from being
you can have him at war with it in a very different way than Cisco, who is kind of has the sort of dispassionate Federation atheism sort of distance from his role, whereas this other Cisco could be embracing it in ways that are unhealthy,
completely. Or just really reform him into like exactly the hero they need for over here, and turned him into like this very powerful force that went from being slapstick goofy to like, what if Cisco actually gave a shit about being the whatever.
So Pirate Cisco shows up with his pirate crew. They razz O'Brien. You get a kind of sense of how all the characters fit in. And no Dax, no Bashir. Mirror versions anyway. Later on, we have the scene where Quark does in fact finally get executed, and we kind of get that dichotomy of Mira going straight from, oh, I can have empathy and I can kind of talk to you and talk about how I'm so disappointed in you, and then tell you to be killed quickly, no more suffering. Oh, hey, I'm going to wear this nice dress. Like you said, she just doesn't have that moral pause. It doesn't affect her. And it's clearly affecting.
You blame her?
Kira,
I mean, if you're about to show how awesome you're going to look in this dress with your lesbian clone, like, who's got time to feel sad about that? Not me.
There is a neat detail in that scene where her attendants in the room are Vulcans.
Yeah.
Because, they would have been conquered with the rest of the Terran Empire. So, it's worth noting.
Well, I noted them. I like evil Garak when he approaches Kira on like, hey, I'm going to give you an option, and it's a shit option, and I can't do anything for your friend, but it's the only option on the table, so you're going to have to consider it. I'm going to kill Mira. You're going to take over as a dummy. You're going to play along until you leave to go on your pilgrimage, and then you can fuck off back to wherever you want to go.
I liked his little comment about how he likes a well-tailored outfit. Like, it's the only piece of himself that's consistent.
Yes, and to the complete antithesis of main Garak is she's like, well, what do you mean get rid of? He's like, exactly what I mean. I don't have time for foolish euphemisms, which is the complete opposite of the guy who speaks only in italics and innuendo, right?
You're absolutely correct. It is the exact opposite of the man who speaks in italics. He speaks in bold. So his apparently his plans are not typically very clever. Also, something that's noted as a very big difference.
Yeah.
So with the plan in place, Kira quickly goes down to Bashir, who's now like his uniform's all fucked up. He's like coated in grease. He's like, listen, we got to find a way out of this place tonight. I do not want to be involved in these people's fucking schemes a second longer than I have to. So whenever you see an opportunity, use it to get the fuck out of here. I'm going to use whatever opportunity I can to get the fuck out of my situation. We're just going to get to a runabout and just go to the wormhole. Just fuck it, right? Like, we'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And Bashir's like, got it. Thumbs up. I don't want to do this anymore. And cut back to Quark's bar, where we're going to start a little party. And Kira comes in, and as you noted, blue dress, very flattering, very nice. So much so, she's got 2 of them. It's a perfect. I am so egotistical. I'm going to dress myself up in the same thing I'm wearing so I can look at how I look in this dress in person.
Before I put my mouth on it.
I mean, doesn't Garak like straight up say it's like she's in love with you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like she wants you. Like this the subtext is text.
Mm-hmm.
And like
she
you
will
said, that's
never
where we
let you
have this.
go. You are a pet for her. You are a concubine waiting to happen.
You are the perfect gift for the girl who has everything. Exact quote.
Yep, you're going to be a kept pet, basically. I like that ultimately we know that Garak is a liar, as shown by the fact that Odo is very clearly planning on killing Bashir. And the plan was supposed to be that Bashir was going to be whisked away and treated as comfortable as possible before being turned loose. But, you know, he couldn't meet back up with Kira. But Odo's basically like, you're not built for this stuff. You're not good at it. And sad for you, you're never really going to have the chance to get better. This is your last night being alive.
Was it a thorium leak in the ore processing that results in the opportunity that Julian wants to use to escape? And this is where the lack of locking holsters starts to become a major plot point in this episode, because he just scams a phaser off of a nearby Cardassian guard as everyone is running out, and then just casually explodes Odo. We're just gonna knock one right off right here. Here's another tradition. Mirror Universe people get killed all the time. Bang. And it's not just dead. It's literally explode into a pile of goo.
I would have never thought that the shape-changing goo that he was made out of was actually just liquid C4.
Just filled with explodium.
He looks like a Wayland Yutani class bishop android just getting milked out.
It's a quick shot, but it's very visceral.
I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh my God, what? Very unexpected.
It's like one of those YouTube videos of someone like shooting one of those like dummies with a cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Just
there's everywhere. No stun on this station. Everything is set to kablam.
It's like it almost looks like he's like paused for a second, like, did I just fucking kill Odo? Ah, fuck.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Jesus Christ, remind me to tell Odo to never get shot by a phaser when I get home.
He just gives him a big hug.
What
are you doing this, Doctor?
I think, if this was a novel or if special effects budgets were not a consideration, it would have been great for Odo just to be a goo monster, like a rock creature, Clayface looking blob that just did not even give a fuck about trying to fit in or appear humane in any way, you know?
No, I agree. It would. I mean, I know what you're going for here. Make him more like the Thing or something like that. You know, just really change up his appearance, make him more sinister. But I think there's something to be said about trying to keep the appearances as close as possible. It's the Mirror Universe, right? Like it's supposed to look like the universe you're from. It's just very different in terms of its moral axis. So maintaining a sort of consistency in the physical appearance of everyone's actually part of the trope that you're leaning into when you're doing this. But Bashir escapes briefly into the catacombs of the station, runs into O'Brien, convinces O'Brien, based on the connection they've built of helping him escape and helping O'Brien escape as well, because he doesn't want to be a slave anymore. But of course, they just kind of turn the corner and run into a bunch of Klingons, and they're captured rather unceremoniously and get brought back to Quark's. And that's when we have our big showdown where, and Mira is the one saying, "I'm going to kill Julian and make, in public. His screams will echo. He'll be an example to everyone." And O'Brien is able to give his speech about how there has to be something better than this, and that's what inspired him finally to have courage. It's like you said, it's a big Starfleet style speech, and it turns, importantly, Cisco, and that's when apparently no one has a locking holster, and literally all the good guys steal phasers out of the holsters of the bad guys, and that's how this is resolved. They just grab everyone's guns, like they didn't ever know. This wasn't a tactic apparently in the Mirror universe. This is they've never you took my gun. I'm gone. I'm dead. I'm gone.
You got to do a cost benefit analysis. And the number of insurrections you're able to quickly put down by quick drawing versus the belief that your gun would ever be snatched out of your holster. Lots of people are getting shot on this station. I don't blame any of these guards for not bothering with the lock. Who's got time to hit that de-locking mechanism 8 to 9 times a day every time you have to execute a prisoner? Like, be real, Joe.
I just think it's because
Think
they're a society
about the
OSHA,
the OSHA injury reports that they're filing from thumb fatigue from working that de-locking mechanism.
Evil OSHA. No more locking holsters. I mean, like I said in the opening, it's because they're a society based on stolen technology, from the Defiant. Like, there just wasn't locking holsters, so they just never bothered to invent them because they only iterate on the things that, yeah. So they didn't know that this was possible, and they never were experienced this before. But seriously, what a fucking hack way to end this! Is all the bad guys get their guns stolen out of their holsters? That's it.
Also, that's if I'm rewriting this, I would have had crazy Cisco get up in that Klingon's face that knocked his one-eye dude over, and had Cisco clobber this guy too. Give me another Cisco beats up a Klingon scene. Don't be stingy. It doesn't need to be all phaser fight.
You set it up.
Yeah.
You set it up, and then you just didn't do it. Come on.
Ridiculous that this runabout is not actively being disassembled, because this would have been the first piece of new technology anybody would have had from the other universe. They're just keeping this thing chilling out, leaking plasma or whatever the fuck's going on. Although, presumably, Kira's keeping this all a secret, right? Like, she can't advertise the fact that she's got her sexy clone chilling out playing Barbie dress up with her, right?
You're trying to wrap this up, right? Like, you have to, as much as that's a bit of a plot hole, like, at the same time, it's like a forgivable one. Like, they didn't know what to do with it yet, so it was just still there.
It's easier than...
They hadn't been there long,
Yeah, and it's more plausible to get away on the runabout than to magically reprogram the transporter under duress and get to safety.
Yeah. It is how they got there, so you want them to leave the same way. Makes sense.
My favorite part of this as they're running away is like, no, it's when Julian initially ropes Smiles into like the rescue, the big jailbreak, and O'Brien's like, well, can I go with you? And Julian's like, you want us to take you with you? Like, bro, what part of the hell this guy is living in?
How does this surprise you?
The lonely, no family having hell that this guy is being subjected to. Like, what human in this place doesn't want to get the fuck out of here? Like,
you just told him how he's important, has a wife and a child. Like, yeah, I'd like to, if I were him, I'd want to see that universe too. God damn, dude.
Yeah. Duh. Smiles, though, still being a hero the same way that the clone was a hero and willing to die, doing what was right, trying to, warn people about the conspiracy, gives up a chance to go live a good life to hang out with this guy he absolutely hates, Cisco, to go do freedom fighter stuff, right? All these people are at their cores heroes willing to do the right thing, knows that Cisco's going to need the help of a accomplished mechanic, and says, hey, conveniently, I'm going to let you guys off the hook on my rescue participation. I'm going to hang out with these guys, suffer a real nasty death down the road probably, and y'all have fun.
There's a brief interlude where they are fired upon by the Klingon cruiser we saw at the beginning. They get their shields beaten up, but they do finally make it to the wormhole, recreating the accident, and sure enough, it allows them to spit them back out in the real universe with Dax and Cisco trying to find out what happened to the runabout. Maybe it got exploded. Who knows? And then suddenly it reemerges, and they're like, Kira, why are you in a dress? Why does Julian look like he's been inside an engine for 2 days? What's going on? And they say they've been through the looking glass. And that is where the episode ends. So you're still excited for more Mirror Universe? It is an annual tradition. They do this all the time.
Absolutely.
Different characters go back too. That's actually, I think, my favorite part of it is every time there's a Mirror Universe episode, it's someone else that has to deal with its bullshit. It's not the same people every time. So it's like
fair.
It's Kira.
You got to be fair, right?
Like it's like I think it's Kira. It was Kira and Julian this time. Next time it's Cisco. The Cisco, and then the time after that is it O'Brien? I think it might be O'Brien. And then I know the last one is the Ferengi. Have to go, but
oh
yeah. But every time it's a new set of characters that are like experience the bullshit of the Mirror Universe firsthand.
Well, hey, why fuck with the holodeck when you can go get your jollies in the real life shoot 'em up alley? Like,
just go to the PvP server that's next door. You know, like
server.
Let's go.
Again, I think if there was widespread knowledge that the Mirror Universe existed, you could have a real secondary market of people trying to abduct loved ones. You could have warriors going in to like get good fights before dipping out. Like, some real fucking nonsense could be going on. Some real invincible stuff could be going on over there. But we're going to be going to season 2, episode 24, The Collaborator. There's Kai Wynn, it looks like, and some other Vidaic or what's
Kai Opaka, actually.
Opaka, yeah.
That's who that is.
I'm guessing this isn't her Live Forever Mike Ehrmantraut planet. Kira's lover is accused of naughty. Kira's lover is accused of collaborating with the Cardassians during the occupation. No. I guess she's going to have to call up her government death squads and order him to get killed outside of judicial.
Listen, okay, you and I, we're going to use the rip to discuss the fact that I was right and you were wrong about that, and the Chadish made his ruling. Okay? All right?
So
I see your shocked expression.
I can't believe this.
It's going to be part of the rip. So if you're invested in the storyline about how wrong Peter was and how right I was, then yeah. In fact, I might invite Jack in. I might see if Jack can be available to make a live ruling as the Chadish. We'll see. You know what? We'll see. Yeah, you tried it. Don't run from justice.
Foolish,
Peter.
Foolish. I'm embarrassed for you.
What I'm not embarrassed is how many more people have been watching our show, Peter. Thank you to everybody that's been downloading and watching the show on all of the different platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get the show. Thank you. Like it, subscribe, share it, leave a review. If you got a few minutes, it helps.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I haven't even looked at
really do.
How's our iTunes looking? Have you even looked at that?
Yeah, I have. I'll tell you about it off camera. Anyway, thanks for listening. See ya.